Hello and welcome into today's edition of the Arizona State Sun Devils Insider Podcast. My name is Kevin Hicks and I am your lead beat writer for the Arizona State Sun Devils on SI. And I'm so grateful to be joining you on this beautiful Monday evening, Monday night. We are just a few days away from Arizona State's Week 5 game against the TCU Horned Frogs. And my apologies for sounding off, for looking rough. It's been a rough few days, been dealing with some sickness, and hopefully I'll be back to 100% for the game on Friday, but that's besides the point. The Sun Devils play one of the biggest games of their season, according to head coach Kenny Dillingham, on Friday night against the number 24 TCU Horned Frogs. TCU came in this season seen as a middle of the pack Big 12 team. There was a lot of skepticism around them, specifically surrounding the running game and their defense. Their defense has exceeded expectations to this point. It remains to be seen the quality of wins that they received. They beat SMU 35-24 on Saturday. Obviously, SMU has a great quarterback in Kevin Jennings, but they already have 2 losses, and there's a possibility that they do not reach the heights that they did last season as ACC runners up. And they also defeated North Carolina in the opening game of the season. Bill Belichick's debut with the program, but North Carolina also got absolutely steamrolled by the UCF Knights as well. So it remains to be seen how battle-tested TCU really is. Arizona State's definitely the best team they faced this season so up to this point. And there's a lot of intrigue in this matchup. And I'm so grateful to be covering it for you, because of you, and by you. And please follow me on X/Twitter at KX_21 if you get the opportunity to do so. Your support means everything to me. And without further ado, I want to talk about what Coach Kenny Dillingham had to say earlier today in his press conference, weekly Monday press conference that is held ahead of games every single week. And let's just dive right into some of the key points that he made. So, pertaining to the short week, he talked about how the early week procedure is business as usual. They're not doing anything different. They're regrouping the same way they normally would. But on Tuesday, same thing, business as usual, same practice structure, everything involved. Wednesday, they're going to cut practice short about 30 minutes just to give the players a little bit more rest before the game on Friday. And then Thursday, obviously, they will have their walkthrough. Friday will be regular game day procedure. Losing a day is a big deal for the team, especially with injuries. That is a perfect segue into the injury discussion. So, Xavier Alford is out again this week, unfortunately, for a 3rd consecutive game after getting injured in this Mississippi State. I believe actually he got hurt in the Northern Arizona game. He tried to play through it against Mississippi State. He didn't practice much leading up to the Texas State game, and he got ruled out on game day. And Coach Dillingham described it as a multi-week injury last week. So after this game, they have a bye, and then they travel to Salt Lake City to face the Utah Utes. Hopefully that bye week gives him enough time to get back to 90 to 100% so he can play out the stretch run of the season. Montana Warren, the status around him didn't sound too promising. He didn't mention Warren by name, but he said that there wasn't any player that he could think of that was out the previous week or two that could come back. So it doesn't sound too promising for the Nickelback, but Kendrick Breedlove stepped up over the last 2 weeks and really has shown his value, has made more than his mark as just an impact player. They made a good decision in investing in Breedlove, and it's paying off. And let's go to Kyson Brown. The running back returned for the Baylor game after missing all of the Texas State game and almost all of the Mississippi State game with an ankle injury. He only took 4 total touches, 2 receptions, and 2 carries. But Dillingham said he will get his regular work in. He's a full go this week, and that will benefit the Sun Devil offense greatly. Yeah, Malik Brown really did his job as the starting back. Kanye Udo had some good moments, but both of them are better when Malik Brown is out there setting the tone as the de facto starting back, and they can play off of him. Like I've been stressing for months and months and months, these guys are all complementary of each other. They all do the high level things these guys do are all different. They're all different styles of running. They all have different levels of explosiveness. They all have different ball carrier vision. They are really, you couldn't have constructed this running back room much better if you're Sean Aguano, if you're Kenny Dillingham, if you're Marcus Arroyo. And Kyson Brown being back will give the Sun Devils a clear advantage in the run game opposite of TCU. That is massive, massive, massive. Now we're going to the preparations for TCU and the crowd. So Dillingham did mention how he's been saying for months, ever since TCU was announced as a home game for Arizona State, especially in this point of the season, he's been stressing that this is one of the most important games of the season for Arizona State, and it really is. I know that that's a cliche, that's overused. You can say all you want about that, but realistically, it feels like every single succeeding game is going to be bigger than the last four at Arizona State. Obviously, this is week 2 of their 4-week gauntlet in which they face Baylor, TCU, and then they go on the road to Utah, as I mentioned before, and then they cap it off against the perceived Big 12 favorites at the moment in the Texas Tech Red Raiders. And if they go 3-1 during the stretch, they are in great position to make the Big 12 title game once again. If they go 2-2, it depends on who they lose to. It depends on how things shake out after that, but things wouldn't look as great. But if they win the TCU game, they are on the right track to finishing this stretch with a very strong record. And they could go into the stretch run of the season against Houston, Iowa State, West Virginia, Colorado, and Arizona, feeling very, very good about their chances. This is where it starts. Dillingham was stressing that the crowd needs to show up once again. They've been selling past capacity. They've been filling up the stadium. The student section has been absolutely incredible, and they need to continue it just for the sake of the team. And as for TCU, the Horned Frogs present a lot of challenges. They have a very, very balanced wide receiver pass-catching group. I believe 7 different players have caught a touchdown this season. Josh Hoover is having a Heisman-level campaign, and Coach Dillingham was very, very complimentary of him. Just how strong he is as a natural playmaker, very much just like Sam Levitt is. He's not as much of a threat as a rusher as Levitt, but he can make most throws in the book, different arm slots. He can move in the pocket. He can play action. He can improvise. He's really, really good in structure, especially within the game script. Just a good all-around quarterback, and the run game for TCU is underrated. They average over 5 yards a carry, even though they don't have a running back that's been as dominant as a Malik Brown. They still have an underrated rushing attack, and their defense is headlined by Bud Clark, an NFL prospect that Dillingham discussed at length when I asked him. He mentioned how Bud Clark is really good at disguising coverages. He's really good at playing center field. He's versatile. He's a good tackler. He really does everything that a safety needs to do, and that's going to be an advantage that TCU probably has. Miles Rouser and Boogie Wilson are both strong safeties, but Bud Clark is an X factor, and Xavier Alford is an X factor, and not having Alford playing center field is something to watch for the Sun Devils. Brian Ward's defense has trademark toughness. They're aggressive. They're fearless. But against the TCU offense that is obviously one of the most potent in the conference, if not the country, how do you decide to balance the aggressiveness with standing back and letting them pick up those small chunk gains instead of letting them beat you with the big play like Mississippi State did? like Baylor almost did. What do you decide to do? And I am so excited to see how this game turns out. That's really all I have for today. Thank you so much for tuning in today, and I will see you tomorrow.